Hello! As an attentive and well-to-do citizen, you may have noticed that there have recently been a lot of changes to your daily life. Things are not always as they have been, and I am here to reassure you that change is not bad. It is good and should be accepted as a happy sacrifice in our wonderful leaders' push towards a more perfect society. It is okay to be confused right now, but it is not okay to doubt. This video will prepare you to adapt to the changes and to fully transition into our fantastic new world, a world called Gilead. The name might seem familiar to you, and that is okay. That is wonderful. It is recognizable because it stems from the name of a society that Margaret Atwood created in her book A Handmaid's Tale in the latter half of the 20th century. As I mentioned, I will be taking you through everything you need to know to live in this new Gilead. But to do that, I first need to start at the beginning, with the book that inspired our leaders and the historical context that set their thoughts into actions. Welcome.
Where were you born?
I was born in November 1939 in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, as the second of 3 children.
And where did you go to school?
So in 1957, I began studying at the Victoria College in the University of Toronto. I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in English and a minor in Philosophy and French. Then in late 1961, I began my graduate studies at Harvard's Radcliffe College with the Woodrow Wilson Fellowship. I was very lucky to meet amazing professors who inspired my interest in writing.
What influenced you or inspired you to write The Handmaid's Tale?
Well, Candace, I come from a long line of feminism, which has really heavily influenced my views and perception. In fact, one of my relatives, Mary Webster, actually survived being hanged for witchcraft during the 17th century in Connecticut. However, I don't fully concede that my work is feminist, as I have always believed that the feminist label can only be applied to writers who consciously work within the framework of the feminist movement. Nonetheless, I have grown significantly by being surrounded by individuals with a feminist mentality, and this has influenced my own writing. I have also been heavily influenced by works of speculative fiction, such as George Orwell's 1984. Now, many say that I have an uncanny knack for tapping into humanity's uncertain future and predicting mankind's cultural, scientific, and socio-political falls from glory, and I say that I would pride myself on that. Many aspects of the story were also influenced by the events of the 1980s, as pollution, infertility, nuclear power, and a decrease in birth rates became prevalent.
How does this novel fit into your body of work?
Well, in The Handmaid's Tale, I adopt the idea of a commodified humanity as mankind's fall from glory. The story is set around the idea of the rise in power of a fundamentalist religious regime which is disillusioned by sexism and totalitarianism. What makes speculative fiction different from science fiction is that there is an element of actuality associated with the stories. There is an actual chance that these societies that people like me and Orwell depict could actually become reality one day, because we never know the state of the government. I think that The Handmaid's Tale fits in nicely with the theme of speculative fiction. Here's the book.
Thank you.
Although she might not obviously appear to be, Margaret Atwood can truly be considered as the founder of our new way of life. Even though she was just speculating, she truly opened our leaders' eyes to the possibilities for the bright and shining future you see today. In addition to Margaret Atwood, a few key historical events were also responsible for the shaping of this future. While much of the women were living crazily in the early 21st century, women in forward-thinking countries like Jordan and Syria were living correctly as the rest of you are finally living today. In 2012, for example, a woman's ability to vote, to gain a passport, to wear what she wanted, and to drive, among other rights, were non-existent, a pattern unique from the rest of the world at that time. Additionally, favorable legislation was continually passed so that the religious influence similar to that found in Gilead remained or increased its presence in the ideals and foundations of the laws governing women's lives. Although unpopular at the time, trends in women's rights set by these countries were groundbreaking in promoting the revolution to today's society. Education of women was even restricted and in some places didn't exist. This is something we hold very dearly in our society today, and thank these insightful predecessors for paving the way. The Middle East and North Africa weren't the only countries in the forefront of the change. The United States of America also played a role. In 2012, debates on birth control took place that ruffled some feathers and paved the way for changes implemented by Gilead. One side in the debate proposed that health insurance should not cover the cost of birth control. Men on this side stated religious rhetoric found rooted in the laws of Gilead that bolstered the side advocating for no coverage of birth control. A woman was even famously called a slut for supporting the other side of the argument. Although this comment wasn't popular at the time, it is now acknowledged as an absolute truth, and we are proud to build our utopia off the thoughts of such insightful pioneers. In addition to these women's rights pioneers, other prominent people in different fields also contributed to the development of Gilead. In 2004, a Harvard undergraduate student named Mark Zuckerberg launched a site called Facebook that revolutionized the internet and the world. Facebook and other similar social networks condensed a lot of each individual person's information into one clean page that was perfect for viewing and getting information from. Online banking and credit cards, earlier but equally important inventions, contributed to the condensing of people's information even more. Eventually, it got to a point where a person's most important information could be accessed with a click of the government mouse. This was extremely important because in order to create the changes you see around you, information and accounts needed to be managed by our leaders. We definitely need to thank these technologies and their inventor, for without them, the revolution would have not taken place.
So as you can see, our society has clearly learned from the best of our past and will continue to build off the innovation set forward by our predecessors. In those dark times, women wore pants and went prancing around like there was no tomorrow. They had to be stopped. We are so very lucky that our leaders have finally shown us the error of our ways. We have reached tomorrow, and you can now trade in those evil pants for a new government-issued wardrobe. Now, everyone fits and has their own personal role to help keep our utopia society in balance. Right now, you may be wondering what your role is. Well, that is a great question, and I have some respectable citizens that will instruct you briefly on what your role will look like.
Oh hi, I didn't see you there. Well, I'm a wife, one of the most powerful women in the Gilead Society today. After my husband, I hold the most authority in the house, overseeing the Marthas, the aunts, the guardians, and especially the handmaids. My most important duty in the house by far is to oversee the ceremony between the handmaid and my husband to make sure it's strictly business and not a form of adultery. Wives like me play a crucial role in society. We portray ourselves as the ideal wife living a desired lifestyle, conveying power, control, and most importantly, class. However, our lives aren't all that glamorous. None of us actually enjoy the fact that we have to have handmaids living with us. A sign of our inability to reproduce. Either way, our lives are respected and revered, and my place in the Gilead Society is vital.
We are the aunts. We teach the handmaids how to behave before they go on to their postings in respectable households. We hold special privileges in this society as the only women who are allowed to keep our abilities of reading and writing. If any of the trainees dare to escape or disobey us, then we punish them with whipping, hurting their legs so they don't have the audacity to escape again. We truly believe in this great government. Don't mess with us. Ever.
Hi, I'm a Martha in the Gilead Society. Due to my old age and inability to bear children, I perform chores to serve the household, such as preparing food and bathing the handmaid. Sometimes I wish I could have a child of my own and have a more prominent role in society, but this is my reality.
We are the women known as handmaids. In this society, we are used as mediums for reproductive purposes, as we are fertile women who bear children for wives in the households. But if we are unable to bear children, we're essentially useless to our community. We're forced to always dress in red to conceal our body shapes, and we must wear white rings around our head to prevent us from seeing clearly. Our roles in society are biblically justified through stories such as that of Jacob, who takes his two handmaids, Bilhah and Zildah, to bed with him to bear children when the wives cannot. Our freedoms are very restricted.
This is an unwoman. There is no reason to be concerned with these types, as they are of no use to us here in the Republic. They work in the toxic dumps. It should be your goal to avoid becoming an unwoman at all possible, or completely. Behave under his eye. One of the lower points of our society is the Jezebel. This is a lowly class of woman that should not be fraternized with. Jezebels are uncooperative and live on the peripherals of society. They have failed fitting into our world and therefore should be seen as equal to an unwoman, a non-human. Do not strive to be a Jezebel, they are filthy. Thank you for paying attention. Your cooperation is much appreciated. On behalf of the Republic, I now welcome you to Gilead. Praise be.